Hello, hello, hello. My name is Scott. You're watching Regular Veteran, and today I'm bringing you an interview with Jason Matias. He's an artist and photographer out of the Pacific Northwest. He's got some amazing work. You're definitely gonna wanna check it out. I'm gonna keep this short and sweet because you can see it's a long one, but it's well worth the watch. From Jason, we get to learn about what happens in Alaska versus what happens in Nevada, and we really get to see what an ammo troop goes through if they're in for, 6 years. Don't leave without a like, a subscribe, a share. Leave a comment below with what you learned, and Jason and I would love to get back to you. Once again, this is Regular Veteran. My name's Scott. I'll see you on the internet. Here's Jason.
Kind of coming to terms with I actually knew way less than I thought I knew, and I thought I didn't know anything already. So,
And we've been friends for years, so
yeah.
It's just a part of life I don't talk about. I've been out of the military for longer than I was in at this point. It's kind of an odd notion.
How long were you in?
6 years.
When did
I
you
signed for 6, so 2005 to 2011.
What month?
February.
Okay.
Waited 7 months to get into the military.
Did you pick your job?
No.
All right.
Ready? Here's the source of my bitterness. Is this your question? So there's entry exams, right? And in the Air Force, there was 4 total different scores you could get, like general, electrical, mechanical, and administrative.
Yeah.
So I got
On the ASVAB, right?
on the ASVAB, right?
Yeah.
And the highest score you can get is 99.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I got 3 99s and a 95.
Okay.
So that basically made me the best
Eligible for
entry, whatever that you could be. And I wanted to be something called a general application specialist. And these are people who, it's a really boring name, but they're the people who test leading edge technology in the field.
Okay.
So if there's some new piece of tech that needs to be tested at 12,000 feet in a snow-capped mountain, they're the guy who goes up there and does it.
All right.
Right? That's the highest scoring job, which was an 88 in the military, right? That's what I wanted. Way qualified for it, right? I waited and waited, and my recruiter, I fucking hate you, convinced me that I should go in open general or open mechanical, right? So you're getting mad. Convinced me I should go, because if I was in basic training, they'll pick me because I'm already in. The job I wanted was an 88. They put me in ammo, which is a 32. Or a 38, I think. And
You went in open, so, they can give you the...
gave me whatever the fuck they wanted.
You waited 7 months to go in open?
No, I waited 7 months for my job. And then for the general applications.
Yeah.
And then they convinced me to go in open mechanical because then I would get what I was looking for. And then I ended up as an ammo troop, which were great people, but I still hate my recruiter, fucker. Because it completely derailed me. And then I went to tech school, and I'm not tooting my own horn here, but I aced everything in tech school to the point where I got to my first base, and my commander and my chief pulled me aside to tell me that I better be careful because people like me get in trouble because we get bored.
Wow.
So,
Where was your first base?
Eielson Air Force Base
Okay, that's
in
what I saw
North
on the
Pole. Yeah. Yeah, I had that conversation. I've had that conversation with every leader that I've had in the military because of my test scores and the things I tried to do. I tried to get out of ammo in my first 3 years and become a helicopter pilot.
Okay.
But I was a MICAP slated, mission capable slated slot. So I was non-transferable and other things, yeah.
I'm going to rewind just a little bit. What made you join in the first place?
I'm 6th generation military.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So my father was a prior enlisted officer, and my grandfather was a general, I think, in the Philippines, in the Philippine Army during World War II. And then before that, I don't know.
Okay.
But so I'm 6th generation, and my sister joined too, as well. So the both of us. But every first son in our family joins the military.
Okay.
So
What specifically made you choose the Air Force?
I thought I was going to be a pilot.
All right.
That was my goal. It was my track. And the only person to ever give me real advice, something that really lasted with me when I was joining the military was a Marine, Giran. I still remember his name, like Master Sergeant Giran or whatever. And he like pulled me aside because I had been the recruiter and I was dating this girl who was joining the Marines. And he was all bent over, like talking right into my eyes. And he was like, "You're on this tightrope, and like you have this path, and it's like straight and fucking narrow, you know. And you're walking a tightrope, and what happens if someone comes over and shakes it? What are you gonna do?" And that's what happened to me. I ended up getting bored. Like my commander's worried, but I was on track because I wanted to be in the Air Force Academy. So like I was red rope in school, right? In an 8-week program, I was a red rope of people who were there for like 20 weeks. So I put that under my belt and I aced everything. And then I got into Eielson Air Force Base and I became captain of the honor guard because I was building this resume so I could get into the Air Force Academy. I had recommendations from the New York State Senator, from the mayor of New York City, whoever it was at the fucking time. And I had even talked a judge out of this thing that I had done, and because it was going to ruin my chances of getting in. Okay. But then I was playing pool one night at 3 a.m. in the morning, and having a drink by myself in the basement of the dorms. And the first shirt had walked in, saw me, had a conversation, left. But then, because I was this like up and coming face, he remembered who I was and remembered that I was underage and pulled my application to the academy. Because they gave me an Article 15, there's no way I was going to get in.
That was your first shirt?
My first shirt.
At Eielson?
At Eielson. I hate you too. You know, I wouldn't be where I am now.
Totally.
But still,
Yeah.
That was the shaking of the tightrope. And pretty much derailed everything. Every plan that my 18-year-old self had, which...
What rank were you whenever you got your Article 15? I didn't even know that you ever got in trouble. That's crazy.
Well, they say you're not an ammo troop until you get an Article 15, but I was A1C. I joined for 6 years, so after basic training, I was A1C. Yeah. 19, I think.
So A1C, what was your punishment for your article?
Extra duty and financial fine.
Okay.
And then pulling my fucking application for the goddamn academy.
That was huge.
Yeah. And my sister is an officer, and she was like, "What?" Like we slapped soldiers on the hands and then make them shovel stuff for like a month. That's all they do. But in the Air Force.
Wow. Okay, so Eielson was your first. Oh, how much training did you go through before you got to Eielson?
Well, to be an ammo troop, it's 8 weeks of tech school, and then it is 16 weeks OJT or 15 weeks OJT, and yeah.
Pretty simple.
Yeah, it's simple. 38, simple.
Do you keep in contact with anybody you went to basic or tech school or any of that?
No, I mean a few people from that time like still follow me on Facebook because of what I do now. I try to stay in touch with this one guy who was my roommate, and we were both in basic together, and we both got assigned to Eielson in the same job.
Oh, cool.
And he's pretty cool, but you just get out of touch. You know, he's got the family and a whole flock of spawn and stuff, and that's just, we don't relate anymore.
So you went to Eielson, you got there in late 2005?
Mid 2005, yeah.
Okay. And A1C, how soon was it after you got there that you got in trouble?
In like a year or two.
Okay. And how long were you at Eielson?
3 years.
And is it actually, you keep calling it the North Pole, is it just cold, or is it there?
The nearest town is called North Pole.
Okay.
So when kids send Christmas letters to Santa, it ends up in North Pole. There's a Santa Claus house.
Okay.
Where they get piles of mail and they ask for volunteers to like answer letters.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's where they actually end up. It's pretty cold. It's the furthest north town. You know, there's Fairbanks and North Pole. They're right next to each other. After that, it's dirt road that goes up to the Arctic Circle and then to Barrow and the North Slope. So it's pretty much the end of the road.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was pretty cold. I mean, it's changing now because of climate change and all that shit. But like winters are negative 30 for like months. An hour and a half. The shortest day is an hour and a half of sunlight.
How'd you like Eielson other than get in any trouble?
Island's pretty much a terrible place to be for a for a first term airman. I mean, you and I both lived in Hawaii, right? And I live here now, and these are the most expensive places that most people think of,
Yeah.
right? But North Pole or that up there is even more expensive.
Oh, really?
Because things can get shipped to Hawaii on massive boats or planes, right? But in Alaska, the only way to get stuff up there is to truck it. So everything, by the amount of space it takes up, becomes more valuable. So like a bag of chips. I remember, so one of my favorite snacks is like the Swiss rolls, right? And those are like $5 a box up there. And they're like $1.69 here, right? So
Holy crap.
just an example, but like a bag of chips is like 3 or 4 times more expensive. So as a first term airman, with you not making any fucking money, it's really hard.
And if I'm not mistaken, you got into photography while you were in Alaska, right?
Yeah.
Is that part of why? Because everything was so expensive, so you're like, I got to do something. I might as well go hike and.
Well, there was the hiking and the stories that no one would believe.
Yeah.
And there was also the fact that I couldn't afford to go home, which, so like, that didn't bother me per se. Sorry, Mom. I was pretty happy to be out of New York and be off doing adult things. But, you know, I started taking pictures and actually writing stories about what I was doing to share with her and the family.
Okay.
And that's how it started.
Your OJT was 16 weeks?
Mm-hmm.
What was that like?
It's just working.
OJT is on-the-job training, so.
Right. So it's your certification process into being allowed to do your job, right? And some things you can't teach in the classroom, so they give you OJT. It's basically an apprenticeship for 16 weeks. And my first job was line delivery. So I would pick up the munitions and then deliver them to the aircraft. And I would do a lot of inter-bomb dump transfers of stuff. Because at Eielson we had conventional maintenance on one hill that was like 10 miles away from the flight line. And then we had storage, like pure storage and inspection on another hill, which was even further away. So you'd pick up a set of bombs and bring them over somewhere else, or some materials from one bomb dump, bring them to another. We did a lot of that. So I was a truck driver, basically, who transferred things that blew up on really shitty roads in Alaska. Like, it was better when it snowed.
How much bombs, how many bombs, or what's the, you're up there for a reason, you're dealing with bombs. Was there a lot to deal with there? Like, how active is that space? So
Eielson Air Force Base hosts the biggest war game exercise in the world because of the range up there. The whole Alaska range is bigger than some states. And they host war games. They used to call them the Thunder Games, but now it's Red Flag. And I forget what they used to call them, but it changed to Red Flag while I was there. And 24 countries would send their soldiers up to us in the summer or even in the winter, and they would have these massive war games out there. So we have this thing called the barge, which is our twice a year shipment from places where the munitions are stored in massive quantities, which I guess I'm not really supposed to talk about. I mean, it exists, obviously, but where it comes from is a different story. Yeah. But to get there, it has to be trucked up, right? So everything lands in Anchorage and is trucked up to us. And it's like a 3-4 week exercise or operation. And during those 3 or 4 weeks, I know that I personally moved over 1 million pounds of munitions in those 3 weeks and put them away and stored them in like these igloos, which are earth-covered munition storage facilities. And it's basically a closet for bombs. It's just underground. And yeah, I moved over 1 million pounds in those 3 weeks. Yeah. It's on my EPR, so fucking prove it.
Yeah, but EPR is, you can pretty much put whatever you want on an EPR.
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous.
You moved a bunch of bombs during those 3 weeks, but outside of those 3 weeks?
Well, those are just for coming to storage. After that, they have to be pulled out again and assembled and then put onto planes and things like that.
So when your job was ammo, and what does that actually entail? I know you took them to and from planes. But
oh, right. So ammo is it's actually a whole big operation.
Yeah.
And I think the only reason I was able to get along in ammo is because they're considered the black sheep of the Air Force. Because everything we do happens in a fenced facility miles away from main base. So like even the commander can't come out there without prior acknowledgement and permissions and things like that. So that kind of closed off community and that subculture is helped me like be something over there, and I really learned a lot about people, and the people in ammo are great. But ammo itself is well, it's been a while, but there's like 8 or 10 different departments. So line delivery, conventional maintenance, missile maintenance, inspection, which we talked about a little bit, AFK, which is all accountability, and then there's munitions control, which is like the brain for all the different arms of the octopus. How many? I don't even know how many I just said, but all of those things come together to put a bomb on an airplane. So you have storage and maintenance and line delivery, and those 3 work together where storage stores all the bombs, which is not an easy task because of the different requirements for safety. And we'll just leave it there. Like explosive distance, like when this thing blows up, it has to be this far away from this other thing so that the whole fucking base doesn't blow up, sort of thing. So that's a little bit complicated, but then you bring all that over into conventional maintenance and they build the bomb. And then you have an inspector, usually inspecting the parts and making sure they're up to par, and then someone who will inspect the munition before it goes out, QA, and then delivery will bring it out there. Okay. So that's kind of how the whole thing works. Munitions control will coordinate that whole effort, and AFK will make sure they have the stuff available, from all over the world. It's an accountability. I actually don't know what it stands for, but the premise is that they have all the numbers. They're the accountants, and they know what we have and what we're going to need and forecasted, and they make sure they have it.
Okay. So
I did, in my 6 years, I started out in line delivery, and I did a little bit of conventional maintenance, but I ended up in munitions control, because supposedly I was smart, and then AFK. Those are my main things. And then I ended up, I was in storage at my next base, and I ended up in QA because I was a subject matter expert. So I got pulled out of ammo and got told to go back and tell people they were doing shit wrong. So.
What kind of bombs did you work with?
Personally, there's everything in the bomb dome, but I've worked with mostly a lot of JDAMs and Mark 82, so the 2,000 and the 4,000 pound bombs. And then like AIM 120 missiles, which are focused on shooting down radar sites, so they home into radar. And then the AIM 9s, which is the Sidewinder. And I went through a few iterations of that to like the new ones that we have that are vector.
I don't know anything about any bombs. So
Well, so missiles, they fly, right? And then they have fins that help them direct, right? But when the F-22 came out, and around that time, they started creating vector propulsion, where instead of having a fin that changes the direction of the air, the actual end of the rocket moves and redirects the direction of the propulsion.
Okay.
So that's the new AIM missile. So that thing could turn around at Mach 1 or Mach whatever. It could like do a 90-degree turn. So a pilot could shoot it, and then it could go backwards.
Holy crap.
Because it just spins, it's like turning the back wheels on a car. So that thing was cool. Maverick missiles, you inspect those.
Did you ever see any of them
blow up?
Detonated? Or
No.
No.
No, you can, sometimes they reward you and you can go out to the grandstands and of the bombing field and see that, but I never got rewarded for that. So that wasn't on the list of things I was, cool enough to.
They weren't like, here's your Article 15, now go watch some bombs get
right.
blown up.
Well, like everything else, and especially in a closed community, there's the good old boy club.
Definitely.
And I never fit into that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I didn't get that. Yeah. They did send me to Arctic Survival School, though.
Okay.
Yeah, that's because they knew I almost died once.
Arctic Survival School, is that like a version of SEER? Or
it is SEER. So SEER is SV 87, and then that's here in Washington.
What's SV 87?
Survival 87 is the code of the school. Okay. So that happens here in like Yakima and things like that.
Okay.
And then there's I think it's SV85, or maybe I get it backwards. I'm not sure. And that's like the huge survival one. But there's also one in North Pole, Alaska, and that's for pilots who are going to be flying over Arctic areas, right?
Okay.
And aircrew.
Yeah.
And if they have open spots, there's a certain number for each class. You can, you're on a list if you want to be in it. So they did send me to that because I got lost for like 3 days in the White Mountains and almost died. And then they let me in. I wish I did the class before because everything I knew about survival I learned from Bear Grylls because he was kind of popular at the time. But
did they send like a search and rescue and shit?
no, I saved myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
How did you, tell me that story.
You want that story?
Yeah.
So I was on a hike looking at tors, which are these kind of like the spines of a mountain. So the rest of the mountain wears away, but there's still these like big granite pieces of rock sticking out, like Stonehenge or something.
Yeah.
And there was this point in the trail where I really couldn't tell if I was supposed to go left or right. It was a 15-mile trail, and I went right? So, and I started descending on this really cool place, but there was like, it was a rock face, like no dirt, just a big rock face. I was going down, like on a slope. It's nothing crazy, but there were lots of scattered rocks on the rock face, which could be interpreted as cairns. So I thought I was going the right way, and it wasn't. And when I realized that I wasn't in the right place, I had gone very far. And I'm like, well, I know how to use a map, right? So I pull out my map and I'm like, well, if I just go that way, I should find the Angel Creek drainage that will lead all the way out of the mountains. So I'm just gonna go find this river and find my way out, okay? But there's a thing in Alaska that I didn't know about. It's called declination. Declination, okay, look this up. So what that basically means is there's true north, which is north on your map, and there's magnetic north, which is 23 degrees east of true north. So I used my compass to go north.
You're close
But I was
enough to that.
close enough to the magnetic area. So I used the compass to go, north, but with the direction I was really going was east, northeast. And so when I found a large runoff of water, I thought it was the creek. So I followed it, and I got more lost and more lost. And I ended up in a place called Deadfall. And if you imagine burning a whole pile of toothpicks and then throwing them in a bowl and then trying to walk through them, like if you were this big, you gotta imagine it. But that's what I was in, and I was screwed because I was so committed. And then so all of this dead, burnt down branches, because so much forest burns in Alaska. That's what basically what I ended up in, is a burned down forest. Were coming through, and I was using my shovel axe to break my way through, and one of them ended up snagging my water, and it broke my water container, my water tube. So now I had no water, and there was really no way. I didn't want to leave the water now, the stream, because now I'm lost, and I don't have a water source, and I don't have enough food. So now I'm committed to this track of trying to figure out where I am, and I went through these very panic modes, right? And I'm a really calm person, So there were these moments where I was climbing over and under and breaking through branches, and I would just freak out and I'd get mad, and I would sprint in this little space, and then I would fall and I would get poked and stabbed and stuck. That's one time when I had tripped or fell off when I was running on a log, and I got stuck, and I was in a hole with all these branches sticking at me, and I couldn't get out for a little while, and I was just freaking out. And I was going through cycles of that, and then I had figured out that I could cut my water skin in half, my camelback, and then tie a rope around my neck so I could fill it with water. And I would go off trail for a little bit until I ran out of water, and I would come back. Not trail, but I would go away from the water and come back. But mosquitoes in Alaska are like the Alaska national bird, right? They're the size and weight of quarters. And they come at you in a relentless wave of blitzkrieg, and if I threw a handful of pennies at you, that's what it would feel like. Nonstop for hours and hours and hours, where the sun wasn't going to set because it was summer. So hours and hours, and it was just driving me crazy. I was using my shovel axe to swat them, so I ended up with big cuts on my arms, and then my arms were swollen for 2.5 weeks because of the bug bites.
Wow.
And but eventually, I had Bear Grylls had taught me how to make shelters, right, on TV.
Okay.
So I had made myself shelters for 2 nights. The first one was terrible, but the second one like kept the bugs out, and it was really good. And it was made of a weave. This is gonna be a really long interview. It was made of a weave of like chest high brush that was growing from the deadfall. And then I was super exhausted and I didn't have any food, but I started climbing mountainsides up out of the ravine to look for waypoints, you know? And when I did find one, it still took me another 10 hours to get back to it. And I was so tired, so exhausted that I would try to count steps. So the climbing the mountain was climbing moss, because I'm in the tundra. I'm in like the bridge between tundra and the Alaskan forest. So you would step on the moss and your foot would like go in, like a foot or 2 feet. So it was like kind of like climbing snow up a mountain, but worse. So I got up there, I found it, and then it took me 10 hours to get to the tor, which was the rock formation that I knew was on the trail. And I would do it by counting steps. So I'd be like, I'm gonna go 100 steps, I'm gonna take a break. I'm gonna go 100 steps and take a break, and I would count them. And then I got there, slept in the rock. Then it was another 10 miles to get back out of the trail. I think something like 8 miles where I came out. There's a picture, I'll send you the picture that I actually, this whole time, you know, I had a camera and I didn't record any of being lost in there. I didn't record any of like my feelings or like a goodbye to my family or whatever.
But you thought about it, I'm sure.
No, I didn't. I thought I was gonna die, but I didn't think about like making a video of it. But when I got up to the top, I took a video of like how dirty and messed up I was. Okay. The bugs were so bad that I had taken Aphies bags, and I made one into I cut one down the middle and made it into like a neck guard, and I cut the other one and I like tied it around my head, so I keep the bugs off my face. And you just sweat through a plastic bag. It's really bad. So then when I got there, my car was parked in an area that were like there's campers and stuff, and I had knocked on like 10 camper doors, but I looked like a fucking hobo, right? And I was like, I need help. Someone answer the door, and no one would answer the doors. So I slept in front of my bumper, and then I drove back. And this is on a 4-day weekend. This was Memorial Day weekend, so no one knew I was gone.
Oh shit!
So I drove back, and the best Chinese food in America is at a place called Pagoda Garden in North Pole, Alaska. And I actually spoke to someone here in Washington who had been there on business and agrees with me. So Pagoda, you guys are amazing. I went there, I ordered food, and I ordered it from the door because I was afraid to go in because I looked so bad. And I ate it on the sidewalk. And the owner had walked up to me and was like, hey, what is man? I was like, he may have seen me there before, so he like recognized me, but I looked like shit. Yeah. And he's like, why are you out here eating? I was like, well, I didn't want to go inside because I was so dirty. And he got mad that they didn't let me inside, even though I had opted to be outside. Yeah. So he was a really good guy. But I ate this huge thing of Chinese food, and then I drove home. So
that was a journey. Oh, man.
That was probably the most difficult thing that I'd ever done.
And then they sent you to training.
Yeah, and when winter came again, I got to go to Arctic Survival School.
You learned a lot on that?
Yeah, there's a lot of things I still know and use.
How long was the SEER training?
It was like a week and a half.
Okay.
And it was 6 days in the field.
Were they screaming, and was it like DMT at all, or was
No, this is this is an educational thing. I mean, there's captains and pilots in there.
Yeah,
you know,
that's why I've heard of SEER training being like.
Well, the one down here is super intense, but up there is knowledge based.
Okay.
Like you only survive by what you know, not by what you're capable of like physically doing.
Okay.
So we built shelters out of what we could find and what we would have if our plane went down. So I built this little A-frame thing that I had dug into the snow and down to the ground, and built this A-frame and used my parachute to cover it and to create a like a door in the front that keeps the heat in, right? We would turn trees into 10,000 pieces of wood using just a hand chainsaw. It's like a chain with 2 handles on the end. I have it. I still use it all the time.
Okay.
It's right over there on the rack outside. You spend all day. You'd take a birch tree that was like this big around, cut it down by hand, and then turn that whole thing into firewood. From chunks to like butterfly wood that you use to start fires with. And I could start a fire in -20 and heavy snow and might be able to live the night. still a crapshoot, but I have a better chance than most people.
Totally.
So yeah, Arctic survival.
Damn. All right, so you went to that. You progressed at Eielson, and then you left.
Hmm. My next station was in the Nevada desert.
Okay, I thought so.
Yeah,
That's
that
the
sucked.
one place that I knew that you actually were stationed.
Yeah. So I was
Nellis,
stationed
right?
I was stationed at Creech Air Force Base, which is like 60 miles. At the time, it was 60 miles outside of Vegas, but Vegas has grown. So my drive to work was 60 miles every day.
You lived in Vegas.
Hmm. Yeah, there's no housing out at Creech, and you wouldn't want to live there anyway. Like it's literally a stop in the middle of the desert.
What's there?
The Predator Reaper mission.
Okay.
So I worked with drones,
Okay.
built munitions, and I was a QA over there for drones. The drone mission is a little different because they're slower, so the munitions don't work the same way.
Oh, okay.
Because when you drop a bomb, the bomb is powered by the airflow going through it. Turns on the little engine inside, the little motor, and right. But that's from a 700-mile-an-hour aircraft or
Yeah.
500-mile-an-hour aircraft from 30,000 feet. But you can't do that from a drone. So it needed a whole new power system and things like that. But that was a super boring mission.
You didn't like it?
No, you didn't do anything. I mean, drones that flew locally were just flying for practice,
Totally.
right? Most of the pilots at Creech fly the aircraft that are in Afghanistan or in the theater. They just fly it remotely,
Yeah, that's
right? So then they'll train on locally on the ones that are on here. So most of the time you just put a bomb together, put it on an aircraft, it landed, and you put it away. That's it.
Were they live bombs?
Sometimes. But a lot of times they were just big pieces of concrete. And but you still got to put it together and whatever. So it was a really boring mission. And it was worse because I went from the Arctic to the desert, and it was just a horrible experience.
You hated Vegas.
In general, yeah.
Or Creech.
Or Vegas, yeah.
That whole.
That whole environment, I do not want to live in the desert,
Okay.
ever.
So you progressed there to QA. Did you
Yeah.
get in trouble in
Did I get in trouble in Creech? No, I didn't get in trouble in Creech. Did I get in trouble in Creech?
I mean, when did you make staff?
At Creech. Yeah, so I made staff on my first try. And it took me still like over a year to put it on, which was dumb. But
Oh, after you made it?
yeah,
Because you were low or a high line number,
yeah,
and you had very little time in
time of service. Yeah, so I get
You
put at the
first.
bottom of that list. They sent me to Afghanistan, to JBAD, where I ran my own bomb dump, ran my own operation, but as a senior airman,
Okay.
with the authority of a staff sergeant, which meant nothing to no one. And we were the only Air Force. It was me and my guy, and then on a Special Forces base. And so half the people didn't know what my rank meant anyway, but there's only 3 stripes. So
it can't mean that much.
It can't mean that much. Yeah.
JBAD is Jalalabad, right?
Mhm.
And so you were running the bomb dump there?
I was running a munitions operation there.
What's that mean? How much can you tell? What was your security clearance?
I was just secret.
Okay, same.
But yeah, that's it.
So what were you, did you actually put bombs on aircraft there?
Yeah, I ran a munitions operation for a drone operation.
Okay,
I ran the munitions for a drone operation with a civilian company.
okay. Interesting. The civilian company was doing what part of the operation?
The operation.
The whole thing?
They were just doing the operation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, look, you can infer a lot that I'm not saying, right? Because I was in JBAD, which is on the border of Pakistan,
Totally.
right? Which is on the Silk Road, which is the drug trafficking, human trafficking. Now it's not really silk anymore, right?
Yeah.
We have plans for that shit. But yeah,
Part of it is I want to push to when people don't want to talk, because what people don't want to talk about is equally as important as what they can talk
yeah.
about.
No, I know, that's fine.
So, yeah, if you can't talk about something, just leave it there. But how long were you in theater?
6 months.
Okay, normal
Yeah.
deployment.
Normal deployment. I was there for Thanksgiving, New Year's, and Christmas and stuff.
What year?
08, 09.
Okay. Did you enjoy it?
No, I
No?
fucking hated it.
Okay.
Only Air Force with civilian contractors who were all ex-military, who didn't give a shit about me and what I was doing or my authority. I was there training them to take over my own mission, right?
Yeah.
And they were sitting there making more in a month than I was going to make in my entire deployment,
Yeah.
right? And laughing at me for it.
Yeah.
And then the guy who was kind of like their alpha over there, we just didn't, we're both alphas, right? In group settings.
Yeah.
And it didn't jive at all. Did not jive at all. So it was kind of the story of my life. It was me basically by myself versus like 10 people. And it was just not enjoyable at all. At all.
No.
All we did was butt heads. And I was on the losing side. So basically I spent that whole time working on my own, because there's just two of us, right? So I worked day and he worked nights. My guy worked nights. And so I was on shift alone for six.
Just doing what?
I was
night?
basically in isolation for 6 months.
Yeah.
Any conversation I had ended up being a conflict of some sort. It felt like high school. It was dumb.
All right.
And I lived and worked in the same place. Like my hut was literally next to the place I worked in a closed off box. So, you know, I was never not working. I was either working in, you know, uniform or PT gear. But either way I was working if I was awake. And it sucked, yeah.
You were over there for the holidays?
hmm
Was that like
I'm not a holiday person.
any specific? I was
We
over there for
took
holidays as
a
well.
few cool pictures and that was it.
My memory was getting a fuck ton of food that I just didn't care about at all. I was like, okay, thanks for all the ramen noodles, but can you send me something that's not disgusting? Like-
So the good thing about the base I was on is that KBR was the contractor, and the food was fucking awesome.
Yep.
My diet in Afghanistan was I would eat as much as I could, then I would eat a salad, and then I would have ice cream. That was literally my diet. Like I would eat as much as I could, and I was working out really hard. Like I did get along with one guy out there who he trained for like figure and whatnot, so that was pretty awesome, right? But my diet was I would eat as much as I could, and then I would eat a salad.
What was as much as you could of what?
They just had great food. Everything was good.
I'm so jealous.
Yeah, everything was fucking good.
On my
Like
deployment,
steaks and fried shrimp and like great potatoes and everything was good.
yeah,
Like I think the average cost, this is rape, but the cost of a meal per soldier at that base was something like $24 per meal per soldier.
how many soldiers were there?
I don't know. It was a special forces base though. So I was recon attack and part of the 61st SFS.
Okay. At what point in your career, in those 6 years, did you decide like, I'm out of here?
Like on the second day? No, I mean my first 3 years I was trying to join the Air Force Academy and get picked up, right? And then that failed, and I tried to go green to blue to green to be a warrant officer helicopter pilot, so that didn't work. And then I was getting out of the military, and one of my captains from early in my career saw that, and he remembered me somehow and tried to recruit me into what is that called? Into the narcos. What is that called? What were they called?
OSI?
OSI. Yeah, they tried to recruit me into OSI.
Okay.
They solicited me, and that was freaking awesome. And I kind of think I should have done it, but I left the Air Force because my girlfriend. Well, I was leaving the Air Force anyway.
Yeah.
That was going to be the plan. I was going to go OSI, or I was going to move to Hawaii with my girlfriend.
Okay.
So I moved to Hawaii with my girlfriend,
All right.
which was a terrible choice. I mean, Hawaii was good and all that stuff, but going for her in a relationship that I knew was failing was dumb.
If you were driving down the road and able to just whisper in your ear, 10 years ago, and say, hey, join OSI, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, I would have.
You would have joined the
Yeah, I mean, one thing I especially know after getting out of the military is that having that purpose-driven life
Yeah.
is significant to your like mental well-being or to your feeling of value. So I would say, yeah, join OSI. And I thought it was gonna be cool anyway. Like I get to walk around in civilian clothes and hunt down narcos in the military. I mean, and that was Nellis. I would have been on Nellis, which is like major operations, worldwide execution of things. So it would have been cool.
All right. And what did that look like, them soliciting you? Like, did they just show up at your work and they're like, hey,
Okay, so by solicit, I should maybe identify. I had inquired,
okay.
and he saw my name, saw my inquiry, and then he called me.
Okay.
And he was like, yeah, I remember you from Eielson. And I was like, hey, Captain. And like, I didn't remember him, but he was a cool guy.
Okay.
And I would have, should have. That's like a crazy opportunity. And I could still be here where I am today, perhaps, or I could be dead in a ditch somewhere. Or I could be, you know, some special forces guy somewhere.
And to give somebody that doesn't know what OSI is, just a real
Office of Special Investigations. So they handle different things in different places, but in Vegas they were basically narcs. So they were cops that went after drugs, but in the military. So in the military they were like a special forces team that went after drug operations. And for Nellis that meant poppy seeds and narcotics coming out of Afghanistan. You know, so that was like their main focus.
Okay.
And that would have been what I was doing. I had this vision of my head of just like walking into towns with like with my posse of soldiers, you know,
I mean, that's
knocking down doors and that's what they did,
yeah.
you know?
No, I put those people on planes and know exactly, you know, the mangly beard and the like long hair that they all have. I'm like, oh yeah, thanks for, because I was the gate agent, so they'd have to give me their ID and I would scan it, and so I got to see OSI badge, OSI military badges, cat cards, don't have rank,
Right.
which is really interesting. So you're just like, okay, you're important.
Right, yeah.
You
Yes.
can put me in jail for nothing. Got it.
Yeah.
So you got passed up for a few things, and you were just like, fuck this.
Well, I got passed up for everything I wanted from the
Yeah.
military, basically.
And then the one thing you were like, nah, you guys have already told me no enough times, and you're gonna keep me.
It didn't line up with my mindset. I thought Hawaii was a better opportunity. I thought I was going to go to college.
I thought you did go to HPU.
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay.
I went to Argosy University, which is kind of like Phoenix University,
Okay.
but they had a campus in Hawaii.
Oh, nice.
But so the GI Bill, got to Hawaii, the GI Bill will only pay for a degree equal to the value of becoming a nurse. So if it costs you $6,000 a semester to be a nurse in that state,
Yeah.
at a state school, that's the most they pay for anything. So my aerospace engineering degree or mechanical engineering at UH cost more than that. So I couldn't go to school for that.
That's crazy.
Right. So
I hadn't heard of that.
yeah, so they wouldn't pay for it. And it might have been in the affordable range if I had my statehoodship, whatever. What was that
if
called?
you were,
Resident. My resident.
Yeah, resident.
But I didn't want to wait a year to do that. So I ended up going to school for business. So part of the reason, you know, I wanted to go into academy, but I also wanted my aerospace engineering degree. And I couldn't do that because I was stationed at Eielson Air Force Base, where there wasn't a school that could let me go to a lab. And then I was stationed at Creech Air Force Base, which was so far out in the desert that I could not do a class and a lab. It was just impossible, even if they put me on a night shift. So couldn't do that either. And then I got out of the military, and I couldn't use my GI Bill for the thing I wanted to do. So I guess when you look at it that way, that is, you know, I got this shaft.
Over and again, it sounds like.
Yeah. Apparently, I like that sort of thing.
Apparently. You did say you'd go back in if given OSI.
Yeah, well, that would have been a whole different thing. So yeah, that's how I ended up with a bachelor's in business and a master's in organizational leadership. Both useless, by the way. So getting out of the military, when I got back from Afghanistan, nobody would write me my LOR.
Your reward? No, not reward.
The letter that says I did something good,
Yeah.
right, and that everyone gets an award for, right? You get the letter or you get the medal, right? So I didn't get the medal because no one would write me the letter, and I refused on principle to write it my fucking self, right? So I got an LOR from a colonel, but not from one of the pilots over there, you know. But I didn't get anything from my own unit, so nothing came out of that. And then when I was leaving, I was in QA, so ammo itself, you know, like the main bomb dump over there, didn't do like shit for my going away. Like it basically was just evaporating, you know. And so my whole like getting out of the military thing was pretty fucking lame. So much for camaraderie and shit. So I went through and I was doing all this paperwork and going through the last day of meetings or whatnot. And I ended up sitting at a desk with this like young black airman, like this chick. She was like one striper, right? And she had like this little bit of sass. That's why I remember she was black, because she was like had a little bit of sass. And she was asking me typical questions that I was ignoring because I was an asshole back then, right? And I was just sitting there like, I don't want to tell you about my future life. Like let's just go, or ask me a good question. One of those things have to happen, or I'm just going to stare at you, right? And so that's what I was doing. And I mean, she was nice though. I mean, I feel kind of bad. But like the last things anyone ever said to me, like there was no leadership walking me out of base or there to say goodbye. There was nothing that I would do for my own airmen was happening. All I got was, well, good luck and stuff, and I left. Those are the last things anyone ever said to me. I don't know why. Maybe that's just something that I feel ends are important. Endings are important.
Yeah, there's no closure for you?
No, there's closure. Just endings are important, right?
Yeah.
So like, my ending was some dumbass airman being like, all right, good luck and stuff. You know, all she does is push papers and I walked out. You know, I was like, so there was no like real end to. When I was in Eielson and we were in like a more real bomb dump, like a real military situation where people like build and work together and everything, which was not what was happening at my last base. When someone got sent off, we did this thing called, I don't remember what it was fucking called, but basically it was hazing. Like that person would literally be like attacked and held down and tied up and then tied to like a trailer or something. And people would be saving milk and rotten food for weeks.
We had the same thing.
Yeah, right? And you get tied up and whatever. My last days at Eielson, that last moment was like a literal fight. It's like me against 40 people. And
it was so much fun, I'm sure.
It was freaking awesome. Like we destroyed an office. Like I knocked down walls trying to get out. I knocked down airmen. Like this is my chance to like get that really annoying fucker, right? And just hit him like really hard. And it was like everybody had come out to try to hold me down because I was like really in shape and fit and whatnot. And eventually this one big guy got me off my feet. And once you're off your feet, you're done. You got no leverage anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they fucked me up. But there's nothing special about leaving the military. My career ended with good luck and stuff.
Yeah, that's nice.
It pissed me off.
I bet.
There was not much family over there at that base. So yeah, I got out in 2011. Wasn't really a major thing. It was just something that happened. It was a transition that I went through. And the military, you know, for the new guys who are watching who are getting out, you can...
Took your hair back. Just on the right side, you had one that was... You can... They're obligated to send you back to your home of record, right? But that obligation is a financial one. So it costs you this much to go there. So it cost me the same amount to go to Hawaii. So plus, the girl was over there. So I went there with the exception of shipping my car. And it was easy. So that was it. That was my transition. You just hopped on a plane and went to Hawaii?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mm-hmm. I didn't realize that you went straight from, essentially preached to Hawaii.
Yeah.
Did you move in with her immediately, or?
Yeah, we were already living together.
Okay.
So she was there 4 months ahead of me
Okay.
because her PCS. Yeah.
And she got stationed there then.
Yeah, she was at Hickam, air traffic controller.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
And what was your plan when you were getting out?
Well, I was day trading quite successfully
Okay.
at the time, and that was right about the time I started losing, actually. But so my plan was just to continue day trading. I was a proprietary trader for a firm in California called Coastal, and I was going to do it remotely. But there's like a 6-hour difference between Hawaii and New York, so my day started at 3 a.m. and I had a beach house, and the distractions and the time difference and the relationship, everything just kind of fell apart. So that was my initial plan. And then I went to finish school with my bachelor's and things like that.
How long did it take for you to realize, like, well, that plan's not working?
11 months.
Okay. And then what?
And then I got a job, my only job that I ever got out of the military, working for an aircraft manufacturer, a boutique one. They built like a box that goes into an optional thing that OEM manufacturers can purchase for their aircraft as a safety device. Also really boring, but I ended up writing their technical manuals and QA for them, and it was like if you were to screw like 6-inch long wood screws into the wall, but leave them like 4 inches out at eye level and then run into them. That was what my job was like. Every morning I just run in and then try to work.
So you used your military experience for that job?
Yeah, I did.
And how long did you have that?
A year.
And you hated it, obviously.
Yeah, I did. And I realized I could live off my GI Bill budget. So I did that and I sold art.
Okay. And what was the time frame? So you didn't use your GI Bill immediately when you got to Hawaii.
Right.
And then how long were you in Hawaii?
Over 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did you work for the aircraft manufacturer in Hawaii?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so first 11 months or so I worked for myself. And then I worked for the manufacturer for a while and went back to school. So I was full-time school, full-time work. And then I realized I could live off my budget from the GI Bill.
Yep.
So I quit that job and started doing more photography and kind of just wasting my time, really. But it started this.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And what is this?
This is what I do for a living now. I'm a full-time fine art photographer. I sell art for a living.
Yeah.
Buy it.
Buy it.
Yeah. So this is Tree of Fire behind me. They can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a little bit of it. I'm gonna do a little bit of B-roll, so we'll see.
Yeah.
How it is.
So I sell what some people call luxury fine art photography. And I do these landscapes, and I have a nude series. And I teach a course, which is just something new. I think understanding who I am, I've always been in a teaching role. So, subject matter expert in the military, I viewed QA as an opportunity to teach instead of an opportunity to burn people,
Yeah.
which is how most QA people see it, their life. So now I sell art. It's my predominant income. It's been my income for the last 5 years. And I just started a course called The Art of Selling Art, where I teach other people what I do.
Very cool.
Yeah. So photography, we started at Eielson Air Force Base when I was just taking pictures for family and stuff. And I had this little $500 camera. And one of the main reasons I bought it was because people wouldn't believe me when I said that. There was this one time where I was hiking in the White Mountains, same mountains I got lost in, but in a different trail. So it was a 2-day hike. on a ridge. Like the ridge went up and then down, and the top was a plateau. And about 10 miles in, I saw a big black wolf who was just peering at me. And I was like, oh, hi. And I didn't know what to do because I was too far in to go back, right? Because it's like a 20 mile, 30 mile trail. So 15 one day, 15 the next day. 10 miles in, you can't go back, right? So I see this wolf and I'm like, fuck. I'd never seen a wolf and it was freaking terrifying. And so I decided that I'm just gonna keep going because he just looked at me from afar. And like in another mile, I saw another wolf. So now there's two wolves peering at me. And I get to the top where I'm gonna hike and I'm by myself. So I'm out there by myself, I take all my food and I throw it over the ridge. So I take everything and throw it. So I had no food, all I had was water.
Why?
And because if I didn't want to open the food and attract them. Like if you open the bag or you cook something, maybe that's all the thing they need to turn curiosity into.
So you just get rid of it.
Get rid of everything. And I spend the night pretty much like in the fetal position, just waiting. And I hadn't seen them. After mile 11, I hadn't seen them at all. So I get up the next day and, still alive, pack all my shit up, and I hike down, which was much faster. And I'm basically running the whole way with my poles, and then about 5 miles into the downside, I see them again.
Both of them?
I see them both again.
Together?
Together.
Whoa.
And I'm like, holy fucking hell. And now I'm like, do I run or do I not? But so, I'm here, they never approached me. But what I think is I was on the edge of their territory and they were just peeping me out. I mean, they might have never seen a human because that's how rural Alaska is. Yeah. So they were just peeping me out and keeping eyes on me. But I come back with that story and no one believed me, Yeah. No one. So that's one of the things, like I bought a camera for the no picture, no proof thing.
Yeah.
But so I was taking these panoramic pictures and I was stitching them together and people would be like, oh, these are amazing, right? People would say that they were really good and that I should sell them. It's like, yeah, like I would buy that, that's freaking amazing. So when I finally get to the point where I want to try selling artwork, all these people who supported me and encouraged me, not a single one had bought a piece of art from me. And up until this year, no one had ever bought a piece of art from me at all. None of my friends. And now I did this poster run, which maybe you show a picture of it later, but I do posters once a year. Yeah. And now a few of my friends have bought a piece of artwork, but up to now, when my pieces were $200, or now when they're like $7,000 or $8,000, none of my friends have bought. So I have had to go on in spite of them.
Definitely.
But I can't afford my own artwork. I mean, I can now, but like for the longest time I couldn't. So I can understand like you are surrounded by the people who reflect you. So like I was poor, my friends were poor. And, or just not in the range of being able to spend a month and a half's pay on art. So the whole photography thing has that little bit of like bitterness to it. Like all these people who were so supportive, I couldn't get them to buy one thing to support me in actuality.
Yeah. At least they pushed you into doing something that has supported you.
Yeah, I think I started photography because I enjoyed the challenge of making something, of taking those like few minutes of perfect time, light and all that stuff, and then turning it into something that I could share with people. So it was that challenge that kept me going. And then like art shows would make money or whatever. So what happened was I finished my bachelor's, couldn't get a job. I just couldn't get a job. Finished my master's, still couldn't get a job, right? And I had to do something, and the only thing that was making me money was this. So I had to like really look at what I was doing, be super intentional, and start creating things that could actually earn a living, earn enough money to live off of. And so photography as a career, as an art form, as a career, started out of necessity. It wasn't like some hobby that people thought I was good at. It was like, I've made a few $100 doing this, every few weeks, I think I need to make a few thousand so that I can live. Because no one would fucking hire me. I have a PMP. Or I took the whole PMP course, Project Management Professional course.
Yeah.
I still can't get it.
What is?
So project managers are like an integral part of most companies, especially nowadays when everything is outsourced.
Yeah.
So project managers, so I took that, and I have a master's in organizational leadership, and I can't get a job. In the now 8 years I've been single. In the 8 years I've been out of the military.
Yeah.
I have probably had a total of 5 interviews,
Okay.
including the one I actually got a job for a year in.
Including this one?
No, the one that
No, I'm joking.
oh, this one. No, yeah. So since moving to Washington, I worked for a temp agency to make some money, and I've done things like working in a book bindery or in a popcorn factory or in libraries or whatever. I think they just said that. But yeah, the only places that I've interviewed at since moving to Seattle
Yeah.
are I interviewed at a consulting company once. I interviewed at a licensing art company once. And I interviewed at a manufacturing company in Tacoma, which also did aircraft stuff once. And that I got that as a temp job later, but not as an actual job. Those are the 3 places. I don't know why I did that like that, but because anyway, so those are the 3 places that I've had interviews at in 4 years with well over 100 resumes sent out and had my resume looked at by professionals. And
Are you still sending out resumes and stuff?
no, I haven't sent out a resume in like a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, do you still want a job like that?
No, but sometimes like this entrepreneur life or this entrepreneur life is hard. Like
Yeah.
I'll sell $25,000 of artwork in a month and then not sell anything for like 2 months, right? So it's the inconsistency is hard to deal with, and the cost of doing business is really high.
So where can people find you? If they want to find your artwork, if they liked your interview, if they learned something?
My interview, if you learn something from me, I would be surprised and I want to hear about it.
I definitely learned a lot from your interview.
So, all the social medias, I am an artist now, so I have to have all the presences. So, real Jason Matias on Instagram, and you can look up my name. If you type my name into Google, I'm going to come up on the first page. But my website is jasonmatias.com. My TED Talk is Beautiful Things That Are Gone. It has this picture in it. The Art of Selling Art is on Instagram. Just type it in. Look it up on Facebook as well. I have published a book. I'm publishing a book right now called Naked Thoughts. And I gave you a copy, so, if you want to share a piece of it, that'd be cool. But it's kind of brash.
All right.
Yeah, there's no nudity involved. I'm sorry.
I would have read it. I wouldn't do it, but. All right.
Yeah.
Is there any lasting stories or lessons learned that you'd like to leave us with?
Well, you wanted to ask me about the rocket thing, right?
What about the rocket thing?
Like whether or not I liked my job in the military. And I was telling you about how I was loading rockets one day at -30. Do you want me to tell that story?
I do. Yes.
All right.
Yes. Please tell that story.
Well, are you going to ask me what it's like being a bomb builder?
Yeah. I could tell that you didn't really enjoy your job. So, what were the best parts of your job?
What were the best parts?
Yeah.
So I think that no matter what you do, working with good people is the good, important thing. But being a bomb builder, like it's a great line in a bar. Like, what do you do? And no one asks me that anymore because I've been out of the military for so long. But I used to tell people I built and maintained bombs and missiles, and that'd be cool. And I try to leave it there. because it's not a very demanding job. There's danger, or there's a bit of danger, and there's a little bits, that are mostly it's an assembly job. Mostly I'm putting together Legos that are, they're harder to put together and they mean more when they're done, but it's a Lego assembly job, right? So it was kind of rudimentary, But, there was this one time, so, I have a lot of think about the job and I'm just like, oh, this is what I did, right? But there was this one time that I remember really fondly is me and this guy, Ratcliffe, we were out loading 2.75-inch rockets onto A-10s in a SU container. So a 2.75-inch rocket that's the diameter of the rocket head. And so the whole thing is 7 feet long. And the rocket head itself is this big. And this particular night, we were loading up high explosive warheads. And what you do is you pull this rocket out of the truck, and it's a one-person carry. It's 40 pounds or whatever. And it has a foil over the fins, and then you slide it into the SU container, which is this pod on an A-10 that can launch 14 or 15 rockets. It was -30, and Ratcliffe just turned to me. He's got this big-ass rocket in his hand, and he's like, sometimes I fucking hate my job, right? And he's like, and then there's sometimes when I'm standing in the middle of a flight line, middle of the night, it's fucking cold, and I'm like, I have a high explosive rocket in my hand, This is what I do for a living. I'm gonna put this on that, and that's gonna go blow up something, right? And that's true. That's what I remember fondly about being in ammo troop. If I'm just standing there thinking, damn, I am literally standing on top of a 4,000-pound bomb right now.
Did you have any moral questions for yourself about
Morality?
that?
No, I didn't, because I don't want to say I believe in war, but I believe that it is a part of existence. So, I'm pretty removed from it, right? So I'm not on the front lines. When I was in Afghanistan, I could look out of my window and see the mountain burning because there were people up there trying to kill us. They were shooting rockets at our base. And then an A-10 would come through and then there'd be a whole line of fire on the mountain. No, people used to be there, right? But they were trying to kill me, so. So no, I didn't have any qualms about it. Yeah, life is sacred, I don't want to blow up tomorrow, but I don't want to blow up tomorrow. So that means I got to build bombs so that people who are going to blow me up, blow up instead.